Hi, I'm Peter Jones, Chartered Surveyor, author and property investor, and in this short series of videos we're thinking about where to find our deals. And in this video we're going to think about where to find our serviced accommodation deals. At its very core essence, serviced accommodation is not dissimilar to buy-to-lets. The big difference is, of course, that with a buy-to-let you'll let the property out usually on a 6-month or a 12-month assured shorthold tenancy, whereas with serviced accommodation it's more in the nature of short-term lets. We could really call it holiday lets, although obviously not every guest that you have in your property is going to be there for holiday purposes. Now, just one thing which I want to clarify before we go any further. It isn't the same as a buy-to-let. The actual raw product itself, the type of property we're going to use, is going to be similar, if not identical. But the differences are going to be that if you're going to use finance, you're not going to use a normal buy-to-let mortgage, and you're going to need bespoke insurance. Do not, under any circumstances, buy a property using a buy-to-let mortgage and then use it for serviced accommodation, because your mortgage lender is going to be very unimpressed and they may ask for all of their money back. Similarly, you need to make sure that you have the right insurance in place, because if anything did go wrong, in the highly unlikely case that something went wrong, you need to know that you're insured. So don't ever try and pretend that you're buying a buy-to-let but use it for serviced accommodation. Similarly, serviced accommodation actually is a different use class for planning purposes. So although it looks residential because you have residential guests living in the property, albeit on a short-term basis, it's actually different. It is essentially holiday lets again for planning. So you cannot use a buy-to-let under planning for serviced accommodation, so you need to get the right planning as well. So you need to make the right application to the local planning authority. But with all that said, as I say, to all intents and purposes, if you were to look at a serviced accommodation unit and you were to look at a buy-to-let unit, they're probably going to look pretty much identical. There could be one difference though, and that is the way that you configure the property. So if it was a house or a flat, you could let it as a single entity, as a single unit, or you could let it as rooms, in which case it's going to look more like a HMO. If you're going to let it as rooms, then you're going to have to make sure that there's proper security, so you've got locks on the doors, for example. You have to make sure that you're going to comply with fire regs, all that kind of stuff, and make sure that there's a specified and designated shared area. So how are you going to find your deals? Well, depending upon which route you're going to go down, whether you're going to let the property as a whole or whether you're going to let the property in rooms, in either case you're probably still going to end up going to your local estate agents. That's where most of the low-hanging fruit's going to be, that's where you're going to find most of your deals. By the way, the fact that the property is going to be similar in many respects to a buy-to-let is actually a good thing, because if you find, for example, that serviced accommodation was a great idea but it doesn't quite work in your area, it gives you the opportunity then to turn the property into a buy-to-let should you need to. It's your plan B. I'm not saying it's the best thing to do. The figures may not be quite so good, but it always gives you a bit of a backup. There's a backstop there should you need it. So where are you going to find the deals? Well, pretty much in the same way as we considered when we thought about how to find our buy-to-lets and finding our HMOs. They're probably going to be at the local estate agents. Here's to successful property investing.